Here on TVC Breakfast. Now, the federal government has banned single-use plastics in ministries, departments and agencies of government. The Minister of State for Environment, Iziaq Salako, stated this in Abuja. He further said, quote, if you look at the National Policy on Plastic Waste Management, which was adopted in 2020, it envisages that by January 2025, some categories of plastics will be banned in Nigeria, and most of them are single-use, plastic, spoons, straws, PET bottles, water sachets, and so on, end of quote. What the federal government is doing is preparing the minds of Nigerians and leading by example. Joining us for this conversation is MD, CEO, MacPress West Africa environmentalist, Iziaq Salako. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so some would say, environmentalists like you would say maybe it's a good decision, but then the common man will be asking, what exactly does the federal government want us to be using, if not what we are already used to because of its affordability?
Thank you so much. The Honorable Minister make it categorically that implementing this policy now and getting the approval of the cabinet is to send a kind of signal of the bigger one that is coming. Yes, we in the environment business is a welcome development. We've been campaigning for this. What is the reason why we have to implement this kind of policy? One is to save the environment from the impact of this plastic pollution. Two is to reduce the plastic waste in our society and the effect on our environment. Three, to preserve the biodiversity that we have. But in doing this, there is positive impact and there is negative impact. And I will give you an example of the positive impact. Is that, yes, we reduce the plastic waste management and plastic waste pollution in the society. I've said that. Then we preserve our environment. Then we reduce the risk that plastic pollution causes on flooding. That's one of the positive impacts. But the negative impacts include the economic impact of the ban of plastic pollution on the single-use plastic in the federal ministry and agency in Nigeria, because it will reduce the production level. The companies that are producing this, that are serving that population, at least we have about 750,000 population of federal government civil servants. They are contributing. The plastic economy is part of the thing that they are patronizing. So that's a negative impact. But when we look at it, good policy, but can they back it up with good implementation? I expected before the pronouncement of this policy by federal government, I would have loved to see the Honorable Minister of Environment sitting down with the head of civil service of Federation, showing us all the infrastructure that have been put in place to curtail the impact of the banning of the plastic within our civil servants. Because don't forget, there are some people who make livelihood from selling of pure water, and the pure water is being contained in the sachets, the low-density polyethylene bag. The food vendors, have they put in place how they will get this paper cup and paper plates so that the implementation will be easy for people that are being targeted for this? So these are the areas where I am concerned that you are introducing a policy. What did you put in place to curtail the impact of the policy on the people that is being targeted?
And now that we're talking about the effects that it will have, of course, we also have to put the health implication, health effects it will have on the larger part of the population than the interest of just a few persons. That's the manufacturers, the food vendors, like you mentioned. But you are an environmentalist. Help us understand how long styrofoams last. And this also brings to mind a time in Lagos State. Just to add, Lagos State has been at the fore of this ban, single-use plastics and styrofoams. It was met with a lot of reactions, but it seems many persons are beginning to comply. So talk to us about how long and how degradable these styrofoams are, and at the long run, what effect it will have on the health of the population.
See, I barely hear you what you're saying, but I can put a 1 + 1 into your question. It's like you're asking for health implication and environmental impact of banning of this plastic pollution. Okay, let's start with health implication. The styrofoam and plastic, single-use plastic. Let's even say what are the single-use plastic? We're talking of low-density polyethylene, which we call PET, that we use in containing our liquid and we use in serving food for maybe easygoing, we don't have time, you just want to pack your food. That's what we refer to as single use, and it's been disposed of after one use. Now, the health implication is that at the production level, there is toxin that is being produced at high level from these PETs. So that toxin, if it's reacting with, it can react with your food or liquid at high temperature, and that is cancerous in nature. That is the health implication, and that's one of the reasons why we too supported it. And in all honesty, even at global level, because we just finished the INC 4 conference, United Nations Environmental Protection Conference on plastic pollution and the marine in Ottawa, which I have the opportunity of participating. And even at global level, they are not looking at banning. They are only looking at how do we put proper management in place and targeting the manufacturer and the user of this plastic, the heavy manufacturer and the user, so that from the manufacturing end, how will they reduce the effect of the toxins that are present in the hydrocarbon during production? That's where they are looking at. From the usage, they are looking at putting proper waste management in place that will remove, reduce, recover, and reuse the plastic. So, even though the committee have not come to a final conclusion, but there is one thing I experienced during the conference. The conference, maybe about 4,500 people participated in the conference from about 173 countries. Nobody is allowed to go in with PET bottle. You must come in with your water bottle. And you are not supposed to even bring your food with plastic. And I think that is the kind of, the type of policy the federal government is trying to implement. For the federal government, 750,000 population, no scanning machine at the federal secretariat, which has more than maybe 50% of almost all the population of the civil servant, no recycling material or color-coded plastic container that will collect this when being used. And don't forget, even the vendor that are selling this, some of them are civil servants. They will sneak in this plastic. So the implementation is one of the problems that they have to look into. That's one. For the environmental aspect, the impact is that, one, we have policy on waste management. Since inception of Ministry of Environment, from 1999, we have had policy on waste management. And plastic management is part of it. But in 2022, there was a general acceptance for the policy to ban plastic use by 2025. So because of the environmental impact in the area of flooding, causing flooding, clogging our drainages and canals. But at the same time, how do we get to this level? If we put in proper waste management program and infrastructure, the plastic industry, global market value of plastic industry worldwide is about $800 and something billion. Yes, global plastic market analysis that contributing to the GDP. In Nigeria, the plastic recycling industry, about $10 billion. So when we look at that economic implication, that's why I am trying to look at it in this way. Is it the right time when even the minimum wage has not been agreed to? The cost implication is that if there is no alternative that the civil servant can afford to buy the new packaging, which will include use of paper plates, single bottle water, and even putting water dispenser in our ministries, because there is no potable water, no public water, and we must survive. I'm a field man in the area of waste management in Nigeria. I have worked in 3 different landfills. I've worked in Oyo, I've worked in Lagos, I've worked in Kaduna, I've worked in Enugu. And I know that even since the time we are campaigning about waste plastic recycling, we have not attained more than 10%. So since the time we have been campaigning for this, so we need to work.
Mr. Salako, what would you adduce to the reason people do not, subscribe to the fact that they have to be environmentally responsible when it comes to the usage of some of these things that, cause hazard to the environment? Because because back in the day, I remember growing up, we used to do sanitation, environmental sanitation. Was it the last Saturday of the month? And then later on, it stopped, even here in Lagos. The only time you get to hear about it is maybe on Thursdays for market people. How about people that live in their homes? So how much of awareness do you think we are making for people to have it at the back of their mind, in their subconscious, that this is the proper way to use this thing and the proper way to dispose of all of this, environmentally unfriendly materials that we use?
Thank you for that question. I already mentioned in terms of implementation of policy. If this policy is going to be introduced, before the introduction, I expected the policymaker in the civil service to have carried out a stakeholders forum among the in the ministries and agencies that federal government is trying to introduce this, and these are the provisions, these are what we are going to make for you. You have to you have to now start the changing to the norm, because there is one thing that you are used to, the lifestyle you are used to before, now is going to change. So the social implication is that changing people's perception from the way they used to behave to new one is not easy. So it's involved the use of maybe continuous education and awareness by the people who are introducing the policy. So the issue of environmental sanitation, that alone, it has been proven that it cannot solve the problem of environmental pollution. It cannot solve. You are only wasting manpower. So what we can only do is that environmental sanitation should be done almost every day by allowing people to know that throwing of this PET bottle in our street is prohibited. It has implication. If you throw it on the street, it's going to clog the water channel and it's going to cause flooding. And the effect again is that it's contributing to greenhouse gas emission. So all this, we have to let them know about the health implication.
But they won't do this. They won't do the right thing. You find people, in fact, driving the most exotic cars on the road, and then they finish taking anything from the sachet water or bottled water, and they throw the bottle on the street. Even when some people will even try to call them to account, But they will go ahead and start cursing these people and not even respecting what should be environmentally friendly.
I agree with you. It depends on who is leading. Can you do that during Governor Fashola's era in Lagos? And when Commissioner Banire was in power as Commissioner for Environment? You can't do that. We sanitize the entire Oshodi. You can't even sit in, and they put proper infrastructure in place. And they even let the law take its course because there is environmental sanitation offences tribunal. Kai was effective. They are not the Kai that we have today chasing market women blocking the road. They are effective in the area of monitoring people that drop anything from the car. They even inspect the basket that is supposed to be in your vehicle for people that want to throw away waste, so that they have basket to contain the waste in the buses, in our buses. So it's boiled down on who is implementing the policy, and it boils down on who is enforcing it. People, Nigerians like to obey law, but if they see enforcement, so we need to work on our enforcement. We need to put in more infrastructure for enforcing the law. It's not just to put, see, I tell you of what I saw in Canada. When we were at the conference, from the gate, the entrance of the conference, the security are there, monitoring, screening our belongings before we get, and by the time we got to the conference center, at each gate, there is water dispenser. The vendor are there to serve us coffee with plastic and with paper bag. And we used to have it in Lagos. There's what we call policy on plastic buyback. Don't forget that a lot of industry has sprung up from plastic recycling in Nigeria today. To remove plastic from our daily system, in fact, all we need to do is just to start creating the circular economy from plastic pollution. Open new businesses from plastic through plastic waste management, because now they have been using plastic to construct road, asphalt road. They've been using plastic to produce a new plastic in a different form. That's to encourage the circular economy. So I'm not looking at the area where you are looking at. I'm looking at both economic impact, environmental impact, and social and health impact. But if they want to introduce it, the beauty of this law is that, this policy is that they are introducing it at a micro level and see the effect. But if care is not taken, if they don't put enough implementation plan in place, it will fail. And that will be a disaster for the bigger one they are looking for to execute in 2025. So immediately I want to see the Honorable my advice is that the Honorable Minister of Environment and the Head of Civil Service of Federation, they should quickly come up and provide waste management infrastructure in terms of maybe the color-coded bin that they will use to mop up the one that is in the circulation. Because if you go to Federal Secretariat now and you look at the waste stream, what you find there is like sachets water. Bag, so or what we call pure water bag. Then you have pets, and it could be easily implemented by the higher hierarchy of the civil servant. But the lower cadre, who are managing the little money they have, you are saying they will not drink, and water is life. So implementing it will be a very serious task, a Herculean task for the policymaker. So, but they can do it. It is doable, because I have seen where they are doing it. And if we can follow the right step, I think all of us will be able to achieve the set objective.
And some will perhaps say that the implementation of this might work if the federal government decides to, partner with the private sector, like you have mentioned, also making waste management an economy or a thriving business of its own. Another alternative to this styrofoam, the single-use plastics. You mentioned the paper plates. In some other countries, they use calabash. They use banana leaves. But You will agree with me that waste management is a habit in itself. And if the individual themselves do not cultivate this habit, no matter the number of, awareness and sensitization, this will not be as effective like we would want it to. You mentioned going to the secretariat where waste are not being properly disposed. There was a time in Lagos State where waste were separated in containers in a way that this can be recycled. How do we ensure that these policies can be enduring? And also talk to us about some of these alternatives.
Thank you. The alternative that I will suggest, I don't know if you belong to the generation that when we are growing up, we used to take our soft drink in bottle, and you will deposit some money. They will give you the bottle with the content. You will return the bottle after taking the content, and you take your money back. That is a policy, one of the policies that, but can we reintroduce that? I'm not sure. Event has taken that kind of initiative. But the initiative I will say the federal government should try to introduce is encourage the use of paper, like in our like ShopRite, big supermarket. These are they use a lot of single-use plastic. So what do? We have to first reintroducing the use of paper bag. Go to American store, UK store. Either you use the cloth bag, carrier bag, or you use paper bag. That is the alternative. Those ones are compostable. They are biodegradable. So these are the alternative. But are we now having to put the right implementation policy down to encourage paper manufacturer and the people that will produce the textile bag, so that, but it will add to the cost of selling the products that they are using, because everybody sees plastic as a very cheap, durable, and easy to discard. So look at our moi. In those days, we used leaf to prepare moi. Now you use low-density polyethylene bag to prepare moi, and any food that is prepared and heat at hot temperature is cancerous to the body. So we need to start creating that awareness for people to see the difference between preserving our old culture to the new one. But can we do without plastic? In this era, no way. All we need to do now is to target the manufacturer and the user, the big manufacturer and the user. The new research that has just come out is that even at production level, the wastewater from the manufacturing of plastic contain microplastic that is even more toxic than the one we are talking about. And let me give you an example of the study we carried out in 2005 when President Tinubu was governor of Lagos. We did that study for the World Bank. I was a member of the team of the World Bank. I was one of the scientists. We have 2 scientists and 1 economist, because Lagos State was trying to access water fund from the World Bank for water improvement in 4 zones. Ebute Metta, Surulere, Lagos Island, Victoria Island, and the Ikoyi area. And the fund was to be released to Lagos State, I think about $200 million. And the World Bank called Lagos State and said, if we are going to release this water money for you, you need to come up with a study for wastewater. How will you manage wastewater? Because improvement in water supply will lead to increase in wastewater supply. The management of it will be catastrophic for you if you don't manage it properly. And we got to one of the medical institutions, Lutz, and the CMD then was telling us that, come, what are you trying to do? You said there is no, you are trying to study the health implication of wastewater. We said yes. He said, please, we are feeling it here positively. People are not having access to potable water anymore. But the advent of pure water has reduced the impact of cholera in it has brought down the number of people affected by cholera and waterborne diseases. So if we are able to give them the advice, if we are going to get that information from our tertiary institution, teaching institution, it means that if potable water, alternative to pure water, is make available potable water. And now you can see what is happening. we are having problem of cholera. Now, what is causing it? Maybe food and water intake. So the health implication of not having potable water and not preserving our water in the right container is very, very serious. So the alternative to that is that let's put the right waste management in place. Let's put the right infrastructure in place. Funding for implementing the infrastructure that will curtail the management and reduce the health, environment, social, and economic impact is what I will advocate that the federal government should keep on preparing for before they introduce to the entire nation in 2025. That's my advice.
All right, Mr. Salako, you're yet to speak to the facts about poor waste management of individuals, poor waste management of Nigerians. If we try to narrow it down to Lagos State, we had the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources complaining some weeks ago about the fact that a larger part of the budget was used for evacuation. If you go out early in the morning, you see some persons disposing dirt on the roads. Some of these roads were cleaned the night before by officers of the waste management agencies. So amidst the cholera outbreak and amidst environmental concerns like clogged canals, drainage problem, improper sewages, how do we address individual waste management habits?
Mr. Salako, could you hear her?
We seem to be having...
Mr. Salako, are you there? Oh, okay, I'm afraid we lost connection with Mr. Salako. Just audio connection. But then he's actually said so many things, regarding the... Mr. Salako, are you back here? Oh, okay. I understand that they're still trying to establish connection with him. So there's so much to do, because if you look at the bigger picture, which is said, 2025, even now, how far have we gone in mitigating the impact of this on the environment? Because some people actually know. Let's assume those who know do not, those who do not know, but those who know, how are they responsibly using this, what's it called, the plastic bottles, the nylon, styrofoam, and all of that. It's just, beats one's imagination as to how they use it.
I would not want to agree to the fact of what you mentioned about people not knowing. When you dispose of something on a clean road, you should know that these are the things that should not happen even in your own house. That's right. And that's why when you mention having environmental sanitation that they have now, some streets still conduct that. But back in the days where we had the environmental officers go into houses to ensure that these houses were clean, and if you do not have a house that is up to the hygiene standard, then you will be punished. I feel we should go back to times like that. And so this is very key, especially when we are going through the cholera outbreak. Many persons will say, why are we still having cholera in 2024? But you have other factors. It's in front of you. Improper disposal of dirt, poor sewage system, poor drainage system. The commissioner is complaining about waste management in Lagos State, and that's why I also wanted to talk to him about the fact that individuals also have a lot to play. Because when we are trying to say, or the federal government will do this, how much of the policies will be able to work when the individuals, Nigerians themselves, do not take up the responsibility of proper waste management? You just know that you do not have to dispose it. And that's why even in Lagos State, there was a time, and that's why also talking to him about the sustainability of these policies and how it's going to work. There was a time where we had different containers where you know that this is for plastics, this is for things that cannot be
it's not
recycled.
a matter of once upon a time. Maybe you're referring to outside, because I know here we actually practice that. We have different containers for the bottle, food waste, and also...
So how many people, how many persons know? I'm in Lagos State, and I'm not sure so many persons around me know about that. Well, your opportunity to probably be in an environment that works that kind of way. But when you stay in an environment where so many environmental concerns, averagely everyone probably just wants to make profits, and they do not look at the health implication this will have on the population.
So it's neither here nor there. You know, we're looking at the economic implication of banning all of this, because it has actually created job for some other people, and we're also looking at health implications. So which one should come first? Is it economic implication or health? There is a saying that health is wealth, cleanliness is next to godliness. So which one comes first? Is it the economic implication, or is it the health implication? Because if you look at the two, they actually work together. If you do not have this quality health, then how do you have the enough power or enough drive or push to also get out to fend for yourself economically? So it's a whole lot of things, a whole lot of challenges, for the people, on the part of the people, and that of the government, who is trying to also ensure that we have a saner environment.
So it's not really a lot of problem for the people. If you look at how this policy began in Lagos State, they were given a notice. The manufacturers were given a notice, and of course, for every policy, there will be some level of backlash, responses. Not many persons will want to agree with it. Yeah. But he mentioned that in where he went in Canada, people had already gotten used to that lifestyle, and so not many of the policies that we have today were probably openly accepted. But along the line, for the purpose of health of the population, we cannot undermine the health of millions of Nigerians just because we want to satisfy the interest of just a little percentage of manufacturers.
That's right.
I understand that this might lead to job loss to an extent, but they can also find a way to diversify into something better. They do not have to stay on just styrofoams.
So it's not a matter of sentiment or emotion?
It's not a matter of sentiment, because we are looking at the health implication. And we have a particular, I think styrofoam is a major cause of cancer.
I understand styrofoam actually takes about 500 years for it to be degraded, so that's a whole lot of years.
That's a whole lot.
You use it, and then that substance actually outlives you, and then it goes after your generation and all of that, and it's just there in the soil without it, degrading. So I do not know what exactly we need to do.
And so while we're talking about that, we're also talking about the cost implication it will be especially for commissioners in each state to have to evacuate that. If we have a larger number of the population in each state having to use something that will take years to be degraded, then you can imagine how much will be spent on having to evacuate this, when we can't spend this on keeping the environment clean, spending on awareness, spending on advocacy, spending on ensuring that individuals themselves are meeting up to the standards of hygiene. Because if you're not meeting up to the standards of hygiene, to an extent, you can also contract that to your neighbor. So it's important for every individual to meet up to the standards of hygiene.
Maybe those who are supposed to enforce this, excuse me, the politicians, they're also worried about the next election, because whenever they win an election, the next thing that comes to their mind is, how do I, stay in office, for the next 4 years? If I ban this, or if I take action over this, and then people get angry, they might, as a result of that, not, elect me. They not return me, back to the office. So it's a whole lot of problem for them. It's a whole lot of problem for us as a people. And then we just have to come and agree on a common ground what we need to do and how we need to move our nation forward, just to make sure that we have a better environment. Because we can't be sitting back here in Nigeria and be glamorizing what happens in the Western developed economies. This is what they do. This is how they do it. Fine, it's good to look at pace setters, how they're doing it, so that we learn from what they do. But then not all the time. They should also think of what we do here in Africa, because so many good things actually come out of Africa that serve as, poster, actions, for other people, poster example for other people to also learn from. So we should always think on how we can develop ourselves, homegrown way of developing ourselves. Look at the gutters, look at the screen. It's just so bad. Sometimes you feel sad that you'll be asking yourself, they say this place is supposed to be a developed community, but then it will be destroyed with bad sites, where you see different nylons, different styrofoams, bottles and all of that. Maybe some of the bottles we are even seeing in some of our drainages, the companies should be made to pay for it. Because if you're producing this, you should also, selling this to people, you should also think of how do we also mop up, some of this waste. This is one of the questions I was also looking to ask our guest.
Well, that's a really good point that you have mentioned, because I really did not think of that. Having these manufacturers also sharing the burden,
being very responsible,
mop up this
exactly.
and recycling this and taking this out of the street, but it also boils down back to individual waste management. And so if we decide to go with this kind of move, we have it in ministries, departments and agencies. If this becomes a general policy, then we should also focus on compliance and making sure that those who fall short of this order are brought to book as soon as possible, just to ensure that Nigerians are healthy as possible.
I understand that Mr. Adeyemi Salami is back on the line. Mr. Adeyemi Salami, we actually lost connectivity with you. So you were on the point, and at the same time, I was also looking to ask about, you mentioned the issue of pipe-on water that is not enough, that is not, efficient. The potable water that Nigerians do not have access to. Sometimes you see infrastructure being introduced to the different communities, and then you get to see that while they are constructing the roads, they also destroy the pipe-borne water, and at the end of the day, Nigerians do not have access to this potable water. So I'm not sure whether you've observed this, and what has been your thoughts regarding this?
See, we are trying to see the possibility of infrastructure development. Water is key when it comes to providing infrastructure for population or for community. It is here in this country that I see people will build, they will not be thinking of where water is. Before you even put down your building plan, everything, water, road, everything will have been there. Then you'll be building to meet those infrastructure. So, in fact, we are in which state do you have public water again running? Maybe Abuja. Even Lagos, the water system has collapsed. So I don't know how many population there. Everybody already have their boreholes. So let's even see the secretariat now, where this policy is going to be effective. What is the level of potable water, amount of potable water that is being provided in our secretariat? How many vending machine or dispensing machine are there that people will use as alternative if I cannot bring in my own, if I cannot take sachet water? So even if the water get to one floor, can it get to the 7th or 8th or 11th floor? And what do they need to do? Very simple. There's a filter that you can put at the mouth of every water tap that will remove all the pollutant there. So have they fixed all those ones in the secretariat? And this policy is targeting almost everybody, both the rich, the poor that are in the civil service. But the question is, the number of the poor, the lower cadre of the civil servant, are the ones that will feel the brunt of this policy. Because they are the one that goes to the canteen, to the vendor along the road and buy pure water. In fact, they hawk pure water inside the offices. Even some of the civil servants who are selling the pure water. So if my own problem is implementation. If infrastructure is not in place, the policy is already failing. So that's where I'm going. And if they look at the health implication, they will know that when somebody is healthy, then he'll be able to give the best performance in his area of activities. So the way I see it now is that if policy is not being put in place, infrastructure policy and the implementation will have a serious problem.
That's right. There's a whole lot of things to talk about, especially this. We're still in that catch-22 stage, whether we think of the economic impact or the health impact. And I'm sure that Nigerians at the point in time will definitely come to agree, on a particular thing to do, which will definitely help the community and the environment at large. MD, CEO, MacPress West Africa, and an environmentalist, Iziaq Salako. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.